This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
Pleased to welcome into studio the master director, filmmaker Chuck Russell. Chuck, wonderful to see you. From me, Hrishi K, and everybody at Radio 1. What an honor and pleasure it is to have you in studio.
And an honor to be here. How much fun I'm having in India.
And Vidyut Jammwal, who we haven't seen since Badshah and Commando 2. How are you, brother? Good to see you.
Very happy. Thank you. Good to see you too.
Well, I have to say this, and I said this off the mic, and I'm going to bring that mic on the corner, this onto the mic. At any given point, in particular this given point of time, considering Junglee is up for release, I'm sure there is an Indian dub version of Mask, an Indian dub version of Scorpion King, or an Indian dub version of Wrath, I'm Wrath, playing somewhere in some television channel in some corner of India. Vidyut, do you agree with me?
Completely, totally. You know, we've been talking about it, that we've had Govinda doing a complete song on Mask where he's completely turning from green to blue, and the whole garb of being in that mask thing, the Jim Carrey thing, very cool. So many people inspired by him.
Lovely. I want to ask you this question because you've worked with the likes of Jim Carrey and John Travolta and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, all these luminaries of the film world who weren't when you worked with them at the time.
The fun is to come in when you can take somebody somewhere, go on a journey, and see how far you can go with them.
So, Vidyut Jammwal, your reading of him, where does he stand amongst all these greats?
You have to understand, that's the biggest thrill for me, is meeting someone like Vidyut. It's just, there's the same kind of, there's a magical energy. It can't be directed, it can't be coached, right? When we tell, my job is when we tell a story together to guide him through a character. But he has that something special we can't define that makes movies magic, okay? And I think part of his energy, beyond a true good spirit, comes from his martial arts. It's a real thing. He's brilliant at it, but it adds to the performance at every level. It's something I've learned from the other guys too. That level of discipline and physicality applies to performance in a great way.
I've noticed that about you, bro. Despite all the physicality of the parts that you play and all the martial arts and all the action, there is an inherent stillness in you. Is that part of the practice of martial arts? Is that why there's that inherent? I'm not saying you can't have fun. We've been on fun sessions together, but just saying, is the stillness also part of the martial arts?
It's only the part of the martial arts. I completely believe that a true martial artist is somebody who can completely harness anything that he wants to, the fun part, the calm part. And when I listen to people and they say, I've been doing martial arts for 1 year, I'm a black belt, but I've been doing it for 3 years. Martial arts is not the only physical thing. It's mostly mental. So everything to get your body in sync from the mind to the system is all about martial arts.
That's incredible you would say that. In particular, Kalari Payattu, which is an art that you've been practicing since you were a child, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah? When did you first start learning it? Would you give us an insight?
I was very young, I was 3, and I didn't know that I was learning something, an art or something. So I was playing with the swords, the sticks, the knives, not realizing that they're metallic and they could harm you. So when you learn while playing, that learning is a lot of fun. So for me, it was amazing, and I realized after about some years when I started using these weapons with ease, I used my body with that alacrity. People were like, oh wow, Vidyut has been doing martial arts for a while. But for me, it was just play, and I love doing it now also.
Lovely.
Chuck doesn't like it too much on the sets, by the way.
What? On the sets I don't like? What I don't like on the sets, I don't want to compliment him too much, because our conflict was over execution in some of the stunts, because I come from a very Western safety protocol point of view. Yeah. And as a director, I love illusion, but in things like The Mask, I take Jim Carrey's talent, but I use my illusions to take it further. With Vidyut, he's ahead of me. And in his stunt action, he's doing the real thing. He wants to do whatever men he takes, and he wants real impact in his stunts. And he has the skills to do it. So I'm kind of learning from him.
But you know, I have this smile is because I love Chuck, because the way he's like a daddy or a mommy on the side. He's like, Vidyut, do not do that. Then he knows I will do it. He'll come to me and say, Vidyut, I just want to tell you this. We can manage it otherwise. He's so sweet. He likes to take care.
I'm a real professional, and I know when it hurts. I know when it hurts. So, look, this is part of the thrill of what we do. And like any athlete, he's in the zone. Then I've just learned to support him and not try to really stop him to go to my style. So what you're getting is what he's really brilliant at. But what we're doing now, when I met him and I saw his humor and his good spirit, I knew I could combine that with his physicality and get something special.
Fantastic. And I take it the real celebrities on the set were the elephants and the animals.
They were.
And not so much Vidyut Jammwal.
No, of course not so much Vidyut Jammwal, not at all Chuck Russell either. We had to sit, wait for them to enjoy the meal.
They taught us. They taught us we wanted real socialized elephants, and we wanted happy elephants. We shot them completely in their environment, so we learned from them. And I took the time originally in casting them to find the 2 elephants that could be part of my cast, truly part of my cast. And then Vidyut began to bond with them and took the time before shooting. So they really knew who he is. You're seeing a real relationship that he created on film.
Well, I remember, I don't know if it was a Robert Redford film where he was a horse whisperer and he'd whisper into a horse's ear and things like that.
I hadn't thought of it. It's a
wonderful film. So did you have to do a bit of that? Like whisper into the elephant's ear? How did the mahouts establish this beautiful familial relationship with their elephants? Had to do a bit of that.
We had to do it in the movie because Chuck has written it very beautifully, where I go and interact with them and I have a conversation. That's my first scene in the movie. And I think it was so magical at that moment because the way we had been trained.
On film, as a director, you capture that stuff and it's there forever. The elephants are looking into his eye. They know him. There's a whole sequence where he's reunited with a massive tusker. And the power that's in this animal and their relationship is a big part of the film.
It's one of my favorite scenes, Hrishi, because when I went up to them, there was a herd of these elephants and I was supposed to say a dialogue, and which was very concerning to the earth, and it had a lot of things to do with how our earth works and how we should have our animals. So I was supposed to have this conversation with the elephant. So it's like a dialogue, but when I had to go there, I had to make them not move. It had to do with me talking to them. I had to really talk to them without the dialogues, and then yet express the dialogues. It was amazing. I took my own time. Chuck gave me so much time. When I went in there, we just got it in the first go. The elephants nodded, they moved, they performed so well.
This film, Chuck, couldn't have come at a better time, and really,
that's nice to hear.
It couldn't have come at a better time. The planet is under siege.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not just about India. You have trophy, so-called trophy bandits in South Africa who are going into the Kruger and shooting the lion. You have people cutting out tusks. You find poaching happening all over.
Even more than that, it's buying an ivory chess set and not being thoughtful. And we don't lecture in our movie. The way I was so impressed they offered me this film, it came out of nowhere for me, and I thought, oh my God, to do something about our relationships with nature and these elephants, what a great opportunity. Because I think if I use my humor, his action, a great family story, and you get to love the elephant. We really love these. I miss my elephants.
That's true.
And in the end, the tusker, who's actually a very dangerous creature, you have to have protocols to approach him, would actually wag his tail. And the mahouts were like, I saw the mahouts all laughing, and the mahouts said they're a little bit jealous because he wags his tail and he doesn't do that. So we took the time. If I can get that across to the audience, and I think we have, all they need to do is be aware. And it's not really about the great villains. There's a whole range of people, and some of them are villagers that are they're victims too. There's economical issues going on here. But if just the general public realizes, don't buy the ivory chess set, all of a sudden it's all over. And we present that in the film in a loving, fun way, in a great entertainment, as just an element in the story. Also
to give the poachers alternative sources of income. For example, there are tribes in Rajasthan, who a lot of musician friends of mine are going and educating them and trying to make musicians out of them, as opposed to them going into the jungle and poaching the tiger and things like that. So it has to be a two-pronged approach, isn't it? You get the poachers, people like what Atul Kulkarni is playing, them alternate modes of income. And you also build more awareness in people.
Another great thing that has happened with Junglee is because we shot some of it in Thailand with the elephants, because they take really good care of the elephants. And so when I recently went to Jaipur, that was a few days back, I realized that we do have sanctuaries like that. The only thing is we don't talk about it. We don't know about it. There are a lot of them over here. The thing that is different is we need to stop bribing them. Like in movies, you tell them, all right, I'm going to pay you this much. I'll shoot for 8 hours. But in Thailand, they don't allow all this. They're very careful of the elephants. Wow. So we can do it in our country. What Junglee will do is that people will get to know we have places like that in the country and we can shoot over there. It's brilliant. They take good care of it. And the whole revenue is going to come into India.
So here's Vidyut surrounded by these two lovely ladies. I'm talking about Pooja and Asha.
Amazing, yes.
And you put them in the middle of a jungle and wonderful things happen. The two ladies, were you involved in the casting of that? Or was it,
yeah, absolutely.
Did you do tests and look tests? And what is it that's special that they bring to the table?
it's real. I'm really not that. I'm not that intellectual about casting. I learned to work from my gut, even when I was assisting a casting director when I was a kid, because I saw people like Stallone and Sharon Stone come through when I was a kid and not get cast. I'm like, there's something about this one. There's something about that one. So I learned to go with my gut, and I know a few other directors that work that way. When Pooja came in, I'm like, oh my God, it's Shankara. And she hadn't even opened her mouth, and I'm ashamed to say.
Wow.
I was already biased. It turns out she really is very involved in saving animals. She gets as teary-eyed as I do, because I talk to my cast on a real character level, talking about, you know what I'm talking about. The two of us are ridiculous together, talking about nature and the relationship, the spirit of animals, and how we become better people through it ourselves. And Asha's a riot. So I needed a village girl that is Shankara, who can be believably a female mahout, and she was just as brave as Vidyut in her own way, learning the elephant and bonding with her elephant. And Asha, who I see as the real contemporary woman, she plays a journalist. She has a military background. She's really sharp and charming, and she is quite the contemporary woman.
Lovely. I love the music. I mean, Samiruddin, I remember back in the day, used to do background, and he did the background for Bluff Master, which Abhishek Bachchan has a right here, right now, that rap song. And here he is doing an entire soundtrack album. And right, I've only been exposed to 2 tracks. One is, of course, the Gajraj track, which is a lot of fun, a lot of fun and dancing. And the other one, which is more wistful. So a little bit of the music.
Song
it's a homecoming song.
Fakira, and Samiruddin, number 1. He's a genius, man.
He really great.
I love the way he thinks, which is completely what they say, out of the box. I love when Chuck speaks to him. Samiruddin just gets the message.
Is he also doing background? Sorry to interrupt.
He is. We're in there, and he's quick. He gets me. I get him. We have our own little language already, and it's thrilling. And we have, we're on a tight schedule, so that's wonderful. But that energy goes into the tracks, so it's really uplifting.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. So continue. Yeah. So Samiruddin and his vision with Chuck, and
so it's so nice. So Samiruddin, because he's been working for a long time with advertising, he gets the pulse of it, and he knows what the movie is all about. So when I watch whatever I listen to, it's so nice. It's so different. If you hear Gajraj, the whole melody is different. They've got a Punjabi singer with some South Indian music in it, which is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Nice.
It makes you want to dance.
Yeah, and that must be a first for you in terms of a full-fledged Bollywood musical. I know there's been music in your movies.
Chuck without music, there's no such thing as Chuck without music. He needs to have.
But I mean,
that incident with the elephant was.
I played Beethoven for the elephants.
Oh, you did.
Full, huge speakers in the middle of the jungle.
What are the chances?
The big shot with him that's in the trailer was a drone shot, and the elephants would be a little restless because the drone makes I don't even like the drone noise.
Yeah.
I told the sound guy, bring the big speakers and let's get some Beethoven, and it worked the first time out.
Wow.
Everybody chilled out, and the beauty of that shot, in part, is Beethoven in the original track.
They normally say play Beethoven to kids, or children in the mother's womb. But this is a first.
It's the first time for elephants, man, and that was the spirit of the film. Was we played? We needed happy elephants. Then they would have true social behavior that they shared with my cast and each other, and capturing that on film was my goal the whole time.
No, but if you look at your filmography, with the third part of The Nightmare on Elm Street and Blob, there was a bit of horror in there, and then you went on to do these action thrillers. There's never been a full-blown musical,
No, the closest I got was The Mask.
Yeah, the closest you got was that.
And I was very aware of Indian film and a bit jealous that in this culture, you as a director, you need no excuse. You can break into song, and apparently you can break into song and dance in the middle of anything. And I, as we were changing, The Mask was originally meant to be a horror film. I'd already done Elm Street 3, and I said, let's do a comedy. And there's this guy, Jim Carrey, and I thought we'd take it all the way edging into musicals.
That's fantastic. Let's talk of Atul Kulkarni a little bit. I wonder if Chuck has seen Natrang. There's a national award-winning piece that Atul Kulkarni has acted in, where he plays a eunuch. He's done such a brilliant job. It's a Marathi film. Marathi is the language that's spoken in our state, and it's called Natrang. And what a fine actor! He's a national award winner for that particular film. So just working with him and feeding off that energy as a co-actor.
So his energy is very calm. He's somebody who just comes on the sets, listens to you, and then he performs. That's him. Nothing taken, nothing given from the environment. And he's in his character all day long. And what I like is, because Chuck, when we got to know that Atul is in the movie, I knew he was a good actor, but when he collaborated with Chuck, it was completely different because great actor, different perspective.
Very
He's
cool.
not done something
Very
like that.
cool guy.
He's playing this poacher, yet he's got this calm in him. What I like about Chuck, the way he casts people, is he looks at them, he thinks. That's what happened with me. He thinks, and then he says, okay, I'm going to write it just like this for you.
I love when we can develop the screenplay for these people. And Atul's character was a little more of a traditional villain. He began to give
True.
me his ideas, and then we realized
His caricature is
we could capture what the hunter who might fool himself into thinking it's honorable to kill an animal. How do they think? And I investigated that with Atul. So now you've got a really intelligent actor, kind of taking us down that headspace. And while it's wrong, I want to get some resonant truth in that character too. And he did a fantastic
Very
job.
good job, yes.
Very beautifully put. I like the fact that even the small videos you made for social media, which is you catching a crab, you holding a python in your hand, is all done with great reverence and respect. And I like that you end those videos by actually doing a salam and a namaste to those animals. It couldn't have been the vision of a social media director. It must have come from you. Yeah.
So we were shooting, and because I'm quite easy with animals, you know how we are, like I'm an army officer's kid. I've stayed in very small places. So I'm used to having snakes in the backyard, rats, different creatures, sheep. But the thing in Junglee was every time we were on the set, there was something happening. And I would love to go and learn. So there were people who were training. I was just going and picking up things. I had a friend who was shooting it. So it wasn't planned, but yes, it came out so well.
And this made me a nervous wreck, by the way. Because I'd be off working with lights, and I'd turn around, literally, that day,
yes.
I turned around and he goes, oh, I've got a python. I'm like, wait, is that one you actually found, or did our boys, is it a safe python, So he got deeply into character, but, that was his nature that I felt is part of who he is and part of the martial arts, that is a love of nature and a balance that it's part of what I believe his flow is. We tried to bring that to the movie.
It's more of respect because... So somebody asked me recently, how do you do it? It's just that if you feel the respect for the other creature, it could be a human being, it could be anybody. Love cannot be really expressed if you can feel the respect. Like when I met Chuck, I had great reverence for him. Then I developed the love for him. With the creatures, it's the same. You just need to respect. You need to just realize how big they are. I'm talking about the elephants in per se. How majestic they are. If you feel the respect, they are nice to you. They will not be
I feel like I
threatening.
invented him. Because, no, really, I'm in hearing him speak this way. This is the real guy you're getting.
Yeah.
Because I knew early on, I was born on a farm, and I really get along with animals well. But I learned early on, it's one way to get a cast member really into beyond their posing or whatever it might be. Jim Carrey with the dog was unbelievable. That was improvisation. It was one dog, the right dog. There was chemistry with that particular animal and that actor. And now we got a show where we can take it all the way with Vidyut, who's really ready. And the return to nature is part of his life. That authenticity brings something special to what is an action comedy adventure.
The closest you could have come to Vidyut was when you worked with Dwayne Johnson, when you worked with The Rock, because he was an athlete, a very different kind of athlete than what Vidyut ever is. I mean, he was coming from wrestling, and here was he on a mainstream motion picture. And you had to obviously mold his character in the Scorpion King. And
there's a real, I can't compare these guys because they're so different.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something that I'm really happy about in life, and that is the camera doesn't lie with these guys that are champions and these girls that are champions. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but the stories bring out the best of themselves. Dwayne's the real thing. Vidyut's the real thing. I kind of recognize it after these years in people. When that's with the discipline that it takes to do these films, then that's something super unique.
Cameron, for example, I mean, she had never been in a
Never
motion
acted
picture
before.
before, never acted before. Did you know at that point in time
Not
on
only did
set
I
of The
know,
Mask saying that
I-
she would blow up?
I absolutely. I don't think in terms of is somebody going to blow up. I think in terms of a story, my number one thing is to entertain an audience. And if I'm bored, then I'm in deep trouble. Whatever I do, I will not bore an audience, right? Jim Carrey was better with Cameron. That's what I knew immediately. There is such a thing as chemistry. So whether it's with their fellow cast members or these animals, that's a really big deal to me. And there's a lot less directing to do if there's real chemistry between people. So Cameron was for that role just as much as Jim was. And her natural humor, she's a kind of fun, wild girl and brilliant. It's not just was she the prettiest girl. It so happened she was gorgeous. But her spirit was so fun for that movie, and she went on and did all those great comedies afterwards. So I was right about her.
And even Eraser, if I see the movie and you see Arnold, who fundamentally, he's the butt of all jokes in terms of can't act and things like that. But just his presence is so overpowering that
That's
you
fun,
tend
man.
you tend to
That's
forget
fun
about
with-
the acting.
that's
don't
fun
you?
with
Chuck,
Arnold.
Chuck, what do you think? It's a question that I just thought of. What do you think is the common link between Dwayne and Arnold, and what do you think is not similar? What makes them the superstar
The two of them are too different. I can't. There's
Do
a
they
whole,
pump up before they come to the set, or
Arnold was Arnold's got a whole bodybuilder thing. So with Arnold, with his courage, which is another issue.
It's an issue.
He was all about the gym. There was a gigantic gym and trucks bringing it in, and all his gym buddies with him. So they all be smoking.
You didn't do
cigars.
that in the jungle, did you?
No,
he created a gym of our own.
he's got maybe one guy, and he's like a ninja anyway.
Yeah.
I'll turn around while I'm working on my diagrams and things, and I'll hear, Chuck, look at this. And a guy will be running at him full speed, crash into him, flip him around, pin him down, and look at me. What did I think? And I thought, what did I think? You just scared the hell out of me. Give me fair warning,
So Arnold had trucks pull over.
Arnold's all discipline, all organization. It's an Austrian thing, I think. Yeah. And before the shot, now Arnold's got a long career. He's been a governor. He's a wonderful character actor now. But in Racer, it was still all about the arms, right?
Totally.
So he just said, Chucky, that's what he called me. Let me know 10 minutes before we shoot if we're doing the vest with the arms showing. I said, sure, because he wanted to pump up, So that was just, one of the things. Vidyut actually kind of lives the life. What he's doing is martial arts. It's not about,
It's not the scene. It's just his life.
It's not
yeah.
bodybuilding. There's a like an athleticism somewhere between a ballet and a fight to the death going on with him
Wow,
all the time.
that's beautifully
Thank you, Chuck.
described.
That's
A
really
ballet
kind.
and fight to the
Drawing
death.
is great.
That's
That's a good
lovely.
one.
Okay, and one thing I love telling people so they know. I mean, action is acting. Action is character. A passionate battle in character is one of the highest forms. It's Shakespearean level acting, and I always think it's funny critics don't get that. Think of Bruce Lee. The most famous shot of Bruce Lee is a close-up. He happens to be breaking a guy's neck, but there's a famous little
Enter
gif
the
of it
Dragon.
where he's like,
Yeah.
you know, he's transcending that moment, and it's close up only of his face. So to combine that with the vulnerability in a tough guy is one of the things I find very entertaining.
And John is nothing like any of them. Travolta.
John's awesome. I mean, John Travolta, who we all saw Saturday Night Fever. Like,
Yeah.
wow, who's this guy? John is still Mr. Cool. He is just. If I had to describe John in one word, he's cool, and he's really one of these guys who's deep into his fans. That's another thing that's a bit common. So is Vidyut. They're very giving to the fans.
Yeah.
And if I get fans around, I got to pull them away to get back to work.
Your biggest learnings from Chuck Russell. I mean, what did you pick up with him, from him, all these days that you guys have been spending together on set and off set?
There are a lot of things, but the thing that right now comes to my head is that he's not Chuck Russell, he's the Chuck Russell. So anybody I meet, they're like, oh, he's done The Mask, he's done this. Then I spend so much time with him. And so if you are a legend, and if people look up to you, you have to be so not legend type. He's so nice to people genuinely. If that's what a legend is, then he's one. He genuinely invests time in people. If he's talking to you, he is really talking to you. If he's listening to you, he's really listening to you. That's something that I don't see too often, and that's what Chuck Russell is. I learned this from him.
Wow.
100% everywhere.
I got to live up to that now.
Beautiful, beautiful. So he's a vet, isn't he? And he has a childhood relationship with Bhola the elephant. Just a bit about the character in Junglee.
So, like you said, I'm playing a vet and who moves from a smaller town into Mumbai to make a better living. He believes that there's a nicer world outside. And somehow he has to go back home, and he realizes that his friends, his childhood friends, who he's grown up with, from the animals to the people, he needs to be with them, he needs to defend them and take care of them. So the whole story is about friendship, relationship, and about animals and the spirit.
Lovely. And who was the action director? Did you have people in Thailand who were your stunt and action directors? Or did you do most of it?
He had, like, Chuck doesn't get happy with anything that he sees, like the first time.
We moved through it.
Chuck's like, so we had somebody from Hollywood, we had a Chinese action director, and then we had a Korean action director, then I choreographed a specific sequence of it. So if you have Chuck Russell, you need to really like give him the best of everybody.
Well, I will say something else. This is his specialty, so we're doing our action through the lens of the story, but through the lens of his skill set and how he likes to do it, which is honestly a little edgier than I'm usually comfortable with. But I learned how to loosen up my protocols and work within new boundaries. I try to put it in a nice way.
It doesn't sound like a compliment, but yeah, all right.
Right. I don't know if it's a compliment, but he goes for it. And that's part of his passion and what he does. So I gave him more room, but kept him safe. And there was a couple little bumps and bruises, but everything was cool.
No, see, the thing is, Hrishi, with me, people just know that, oh, Commando, it will be hard-hitting, very strong. But when Chuck wrote the script, he wanted it to be entertaining the families, the kids. Like, I have a sister, she loves action movies only because I'm an action hero. Otherwise, she doesn't like to watch action. So when Chuck wrote the script, he wanted every woman to enjoy the action. So the way we've shot it is to entertain. It tells the story, the anger is the same, but it is entertaining. And that's the difference between what I've done in the past and what I've done in Junglee.
So you are going to get stuntman credits, stunt director.
No, I do get it in most of my movies. Yeah. This one too, yes.
This one too, wonderful. How did this whole thing happen? Did Vineet Jain get in touch with you? Did Preeti Shani get in touch with you?
Preeti called me. Yeah. It was like a call at home. Wow. A friend of mine in the Indian community in California, I guess, just gave her my number, didn't tell me. And
he didn't tell you?
No.
Wow.
He didn't know. I'm like, hi, and I really understood as soon as she gave me the general story, there's an opportunity to work with a real herd of elephants and tell a story that I think is really universal about coming home to family, about the love of coming home to nature when we're all on our digital devices. I mean, it kind of is time to come home to nature, and there is a real crisis with elephants. But I think we've used that theme to do something very entertaining. And I just said, look, how can I say no to doing an Indian film with Indian artists, tell a wonderful Indian story, but have a universal theme to it?
Ask a few questions. What's your fitness regime? I mean, do you do martial arts every day? Are you a gym kind of person? Do you give yourself the alternate day off? I mean, there are lots of fitness enthusiasts there who want to know that.
I just don't believe in this whole thing of being disciplined in the very regular way. Like, I listen to people and they tell me, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I do this. And then I see people who have a very regimental life. I don't believe in it too much anymore, because I believe that if you've decided that you want to do something, for example, if you want to lose weight or you want to build some muscles up or you want to increase your stamina, that should be the goal, and that's how you should just reach there. You don't have to wake up at 10 and say, oh, I'll wake up in the morning and do this. What I do is, I've decided this is what I want to do. Some part of the day I will dedicate to that craft or art. It doesn't matter. It can be 8 in the morning, 10 in the morning, 6 in the evening. So if I have to walk 15 minutes, I will do it sometime in the day. If I have to train, I do. So my discipline is to be able to do what I think of with no time limitation or nothing.
Do you run at all? Because we're doing something called Run with Radio 1. So we want to know if you do cardio or run at all. And if so, do you do it on the treadmill? Do you go out for a run, or do you?
I don't enjoy the treadmill so much, but I do step out a lot. I run where I train. So I've got a huge place where I can do 100-meter sprints, and I enjoy running, yes. You
do. And you would do what? Just sprints, or do you do some long-distance stuff too?
I can enjoy both.
You can enjoy both. A travel experience that you had over the last couple of years, Chuck, that you look at and said, wow, what a place.
Oh, this is a legit adventure. I tried to describe this to people back in LA. I said, look at the trailer for this picture. This was that's the biggest, most wonderful adventure you could have. And the response to that trailer has thrilled me, because it seems like the Indian audience gets that it's a real Indian film, and that I think the DNA of the relationship with elephants is all about India. And then in the West, I'm getting people saying it looks like an inspirational action movie. Is that possible? It is a good-hearted action movie. So with the trailers communicating that, I have high hopes for how the film will be received.
Have you traveled anywhere in the recent past and you went, wow? Just a travel destination that you went to and you wanted to go back and...
So I've been traveling a lot. I love India the most, in the sense, because I think my whole growth process happens in Hrishikesh, or when I'm in Kerala. I was in Koh Samui recently. We wrapped up the shooting of Junglee, and I went there for about 3 days, and I really enjoyed doing nothing. I was doing nothing. So that was one of the good parts.
You spent so much time doing adventure. Do you do adventure sports at all? Do you do bungee jump?
Me,
do you jump?
I'm doing adventure every day, and I'm doing things which normally people have to go pay for it and do. So for me, adventures every day. The day I'm not doing much, that's the day of break.
But you have bungee jumped and done
that
stuff.
was when I was like 14 years old, 13 years old. Like I've done that all. What I do now is, like for example, I'm the only guy in the world now who does those push-ups on the bottle.
Yeah.
So when we announced Junglee, I did it on
Unbelievable, man. How did you do that?
Not only is it unbelievable, I was sure I knew the trick of him doing it. And this was right at the beginning of our relationship. I think I saw a clip, or you sent me a clip of that.
So
but there's no trick, man. He's showed me in person,
So because I do the Indian martial art Kalari part, so the most important thing was when we announced Junglee, I needed to do something different from what I've done in the past. So I did this balancing act on the 4 bottles. So now that we're releasing the so I send these videos out, and we had videos from all over the world, Hrishi. So I had about 70 people who could do it. I was like, oh my God, 70 can. Now I need to do something that nobody can. So I started training since then.
Now we're in trouble. I know this guy well enough to know that's...
So finally, I'm the only human being on planet Earth officially who can balance on 2 bottles and do a lot of push-ups. So very proud to do that.
Wow.
Wow. Thanks to Junglee.
My last question to you, Chuck, is that how do you think we can save the planet and heal the world? I mean, there's plastic in the ocean, that people are littering. What is your message?
I'll tell you, there's an easy answer that I'm aware of. If you look at it like that, we can't even begin. But there's a tipping point in being aware. The answer is simple. It's the awareness. We don't need anybody to do anything. We're not asking in Junglee for somebody to go out and be an activist, right? We want them just to remind them of the spirit of these animals. If you can imagine befriending a dinosaur, that's kind of what we did. These are the ancient animals, and in particular, the Indian elephant is related to the mastodons. In its DNA, that's a fact. So they are the dinosaurs, and when you're with one, you get that ancient vibe. Think of them as a metaphor for all of nature. If people are just aware and do what little things in life, comes to them naturally, we'll win the game. Win the game.
Yeah, like you said, they are the dinosaur. If we don't take care of what we're doing, we will not have them in the next 15 years. They will be the dinosaur.
Elephants,
People will
yeah?
say that, hey, elephants, they used to be there. So I think one of the good things that has happened is
he's really right about that. You want your kids to have the same experience.
Yeah, so the good thing here is that we need to make people aware. And one of the best things that has happened is we've done something like Junglee. It doesn't teach you, it doesn't preach really, but you will learn on your own what animals are all about.
Beautiful. All the girls in the office would want me to ask you who your BFF is. Who's your best friend forever?
Why don't the girls come and ask me? The funniest thing is wherever I go, she's my friend and she has a crush on you. Do you have a girlfriend? I'm like, I'm waiting for her
Okay,
to
fine.
come
Tell
and
me,
ask
man or woman, who's your BFF? Who's your go-to 2 a.m. call? And why?
Honestly, I have like about 40 best friends. And
I was
they're
about
from
to say
school.
the same. That's my observation.
Yeah.
He's got friends, and he makes friends, and I don't want to go on.
So with
He
me,
shares
with me,
his
like
spirit.
I've got like 25 on. Like I can just tell you the names without even thinking because they're my childhood friends, and then I've got some more. So with me, it's like if I need this, I know a person who I can call. There's no one particular person. There are so many of them. I'm lucky. I'm really blessed that way.
Because of your services background also, grew up, dad in the army. Lovely. Vidyut, Jammwal, it's always a pleasure and all the best for Junglee. Can't wait to watch it. Yeah.
Thank you, Hrishi. You're my favorite. Like always.
Thank you. Chuck Russell, wonderful. Thank you.
Great to meet you.